Hi guys, welcome to Travel with Austin. I'm Austin. Today I'm in my hometown of Etna, Ohio. Unfortunately, I do wish it was on better terms. Today we are going to be taking a look at the sad state of the Etna Cemetery here in my hometown. Now, this is the local cemetery. It is a smaller cemetery than most people are probably used to. And while it does contain numerous historical graves, such as this grave right here, where at least one of the people here passed away in 1913, it is also still open for burials, such as this grave right here, which had a burial in 2021 and has a still living member of the family who will eventually be buried here as well. The reason I am making this video is because it has recently come to my attention that this cemetery is in a pretty sad state. As you can see, we have tons of graves falling over, broken in half, and just on the ground. Now, of course, this is mostly the historical graves, and unfortunately that is something that happens over time. However, unlike a lot of cemeteries that I have been to that have these broken graves in them, this cemetery is not abandoned. It is still accepting burials, and it is pretty much surrounded on every direction by housing, by citizens of the town. And yet, for whatever reason, it was still allowed to decay to this point. Now, there are a few people who are helping to bring attention to the state of this cemetery and hopefully getting it fixed, because truth is that this is the responsibility of the township here, and these are people's loved ones, not just people who passed away in the early 1900s, but people who passed away in the late 90s, in the 2010s, last year, and even some people who are still yet to be buried here. Now, other than the graves that are falling apart and have fallen over, another concern by the locals here is the fence that separates the cemetery from the neighborhood. From what I understand, originally this whole place was surrounded in this white fencing. About 2/3 of it now, I would say, is surrounded in chain link fencing instead, which some people think is a bit of an eyesore. But the real problem is the white fencing that still remains is falling apart. So you can see here where we have missing panels in the fencing, and the slats have fallen off and just haven't been repaired. We also have some areas where it is incredibly dirty and it looks like we've got some stuff growing on it. So the main concern of people here, myself included, is that the cemetery is not being upkept as well as it should be. It is still accepting burials. It is still the responsibility of the township, and something needs to be done to fix it, because these are not just graves, these are people's loved ones. And especially in a cemetery where you are continuing to accept burials, people are continuing to bury their loved ones here. Now, there is a township trustee who has been vocal about repairs to the cemetery, and he said that he had one of the residents of our community come up to him and say that he regretted burying his loved ones here due to the state of the cemetery. And quite frankly, that is just a terrible thing to have to think about. That someone regrets where they buried their loved ones because of the state of our cemetery. Not only is it the township's legal responsibility to take care of the cemetery, but morally, it's also the correct thing to do. So, my word to my fellow people who live in Etna would be, make your voices heard. Make sure you let our township trustees, our township leadership know that you want them to come and fix this cemetery. Not just because it is their responsibility, but because it is the right thing to do. For our trustees, I want to say, do better. The cemetery never should have gotten to a state like this. I am aware that we have changed our trustees a few times over the past few years. So this goes to both the current and past trustees. You never should have let this happen. And finally, to the people who have their loved ones here, I do hope more than anything in the world that the cemetery is cleaned up and that you no longer have to regret your loved one's final resting place.